So go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and do just a couple of business things, and then we're going to let Susan speak. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about what we accomplished this year, as well as the convention report from our delegates. So the official business is, of course, calling the meeting to order at 10:33. And the credential report, that's basically our quorum. We have a very low quorum. It's only 5% of the membership. So we've certainly met that today. So thank you all for being here.
Actually, it's 11:33.
I'm sorry?
It's 11:33.
Oh, did I say 10:33? Thank you, Rick. Yeah. I stand corrected. 11:33. I'm on Hawaii time.
Correct.
And then I will take a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Linda. So moved. A second?
I second.
Thank you, Anita. And anybody opposed to that? I didn't think so.
No.
Okay. So we're going to move right into Linda Rosen. I see you on the screen, Linda. You're muted. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I am muted. Unmuted.
And tell us what we're going to spend our money on next year.
Fun things. We did send out the proposed budget in the annual meeting package. Don't know if you all had a chance to look at it, but I did want to highlight a couple things. Our anticipated revenue is roughly $25,000, but our expenses are $26,000. And so we're coming to you with a need to have a little more fundraising come in. We are projecting a $1,400 shortfall in this business year. We do have the reserves. We have been very fortunate to have a large bequest last year of $25,000, and the previous year we had about $47,000. So we have been very fortunate. And so the committee who struggled with this said, okay, we can come in with you with it being just a small shortfall. But one of the things we are doing is we are pulling out of our ongoing budget what we call one-time costs. For example, I would like to upgrade our accounting software. Now that's once in 12 years or something. So it's not like I want to book it as an ongoing expense. So there will be items that we are calling one-time expenses. They will show on our financials so that people can see that being dispersed. When we worked with the committee, we also worked with all of the program people, and I appreciate everybody's support and contributions and willingness to cut their own budgets, because we all have big dreams. And so it was interesting to watch that whole process with the group stepping back a little bit. I want to say that I did a little check quick that the average expenses for the last 5 years average is $27,000. This year, I'm coming to you with a budget of $26,000. So we are below our average. And so I'm feeling, again, confident that we have the resources to take care of this. Are there any questions?
I can't see everyone on the screen, so you'll need to just speak up if you have a question.
I have a question. I wasn't sure. Are the one-time expenses going to come out of the ongoing budget or out of the reserves?
Out of the reserve. They will show on our financials because it is activity in this year, but it is coming from our reserves.
That was a question from Susan Novak. Leona?
I assume the biggest expense is the voter service with the pro and con and the candidate forums with the interpretation.
That will really happen next year. Remember that we're not quite in the cycle.
We have the primary, so there'll be some expenses on the primary.
There are primary. Yeah, there are primary. If you look at the attachment in the handout that we sent out, you'll see all the line items broken down. So you can see that.
Okay, any other questions for Linda? Go ahead and speak out because I can't see all the hands at this point. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 budget?
I move it.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a second?
Second.
Oops.
Trevor was, whose name was that?
Clelly.
Clelly, thank you, Clelly. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Was that someone who's opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for your work, Linda, and the committee did a good job of putting all this together. Appreciate it. Okay, Susan Novak, presentation of the 2023-2024 slate of officers.
Okay, well, we have many returning board members, which was wonderful for our committee. So I would like to first of all thank the people on the committee, and that was Dee Dee Bridges, Karen Weeks, and Judy Coleman. And so our slate for next year is President Donna Roper, Vice President Admin Lee Lipinski, VP Advocacy Jim Masters, Secretary Debbie McKay, Treasurer Linda Rosen, and then Directors, Membership Judy Coleman, Voter Service Karen Weeks and Therese Scher, Program Leona Judson, Communications Juanita Rowland, Members at Large, and here we have two new board members under Members at Large. So welcome to you, Lynn Dooley and Chris Riesenman. And in an off position, we have once again Sue Jackson. So those are your nominees.
Are there any nominees from the floor? We certainly could take a few more members. If any of you are interested, we have a very hardworking, very involved, committed board. We'd love to have you join us if you're interested. Juanita, you want to do something else?
No, I was going to make a plea that even if you don't want to have the board position, almost every one of these positions could use help. I know I could, much help. So don't be shy. Volunteer your help to do some or part of anything that is of interest to you. But there are a few slots we still would like to fill, so that would be great too.
Leona and then Sue.
I was going to ask, no, I was going to ask Susan, what are the open seats still? I think there's, we wanted a co-chair for advocacy and a co-chair for presidency, I know.
Well, right, that's called the executive vice president, the co-chair for president.
Right, sorry.
Executive vice president position has never been filled since we wrote the position. That's not to say it shouldn't be. And then yes, outreach remains an open position. And right now, various members, both board members and other members, are filling in many of the jobs under that. But that is open, and that is a really needed position, particularly in somebody to take over the organization and communication with people doing the tabling.
Thank you. Sue? I think you're muted, Sue. Or maybe you need to turn up your volume.
I think she's frozen.
Try again. No, we're not hearing you. Can you do sign language? No, now you're definitely muted. Maybe
Wow.
put it in the chat, Sue. Go ahead and put your suggestion in the chat. Karen?
I'm not sure if this is the right time or not, but I did want to mention that Therese and I are doing voter service for this year, but then come July 2024, there will need to be new chairs for that. So if people could be thinking about that during the year, that would be great.
Yep, because this would be good to get trained if you're going to take on that position. Lynn, can you tell me what the chat is? Can someone read Sue's chat for me? Oh, you're an off-board position for Voters Edge, Sue Jackson. Yes. You got nervous there, huh? Okay.
I thought I had read that. Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard the slate. I don't see tons of hands going up. Certainly feel free to reach out to me if you've thought, maybe I would like to volunteer, but I don't want to do it here in front of all these people. So just feel free to give me a call at some point. Susan has nominated, I think you can move this, right, Susan? You can move this slate?
You had to move it, but I'll be happy to move it.
Okay.
I move that we accept the slate of officers and directors as presented.
Is there a second? Thank you, Karen Weeks. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? If you're opposed, that means you're going to have to take a board position. So that's good. Okay, so moved. Thank you, Susan and the committee for doing that work. I know it's not always easy to recruit people. Okay, perfect. We're going to move into Susan Gorin, I should say, the formal supervisor, Susan Gorin, who's going to speak to us about being an accidental supervisor, which I think will inspire all of us to be involved and be advocates for our community. So if you would all go ahead and mute yourselves until she's finished speaking, and then I think she'd be glad to take some questions at the end. So just in case your dog barks, which is what mine tends to do, or things like that, we'll all be muted. Susan, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It's all yours.
Thank you, Donna. I am so thrilled to be invited to talk with you today because the League of Women Voters, as you know, is an organization of my heart. My formation gave me so many leadership skills and certainly presided over a number of annual meetings. So I'm thrilled to be here virtually with you. When Donna called me and invited me to be the speaker, I said, great. So where is it? Oh, wait, it's virtual. I said, what? That's a change. And most of the city councils, our boards and commissions have become, that are now back to meeting in person. Some of them are hybrid meetings, so it's easier for the community to access, but it's very, very challenging for staff to preside over a hybrid meeting. It's like the three-ring circus. And talking about staff, the difference between a community volunteer and a council member mayor is I have staff. And Ariel Kuba-Jones, my district director, is on with me today. And so she's going to help navigate through the PowerPoint. What's a supervisor without a PowerPoint? So even though I titled it the accidental supervisor, it really is accidental. I did not grow up thinking I would become an elected official. My dad was rather cynical of elected officials and government in general. And so somehow I can remember, I think I purchased at a raffle or a silent auction at the League of Women Voters an apron with a counted cross stitch on it. It says, leadership is when someone follows you. And it has little teddy bears following me. So that was such an important point to make, that I can't do this alone. I have incredible staff. I work with my colleagues, and I work with many, many advocacy groups and community members throughout the district and throughout the county. And it looks like Ariel, thank you, Ariel, is asking, can you see the slide? And I think we're all seeing the slide. So go ahead, Ariel, and advance the meeting. So I want you to take note of the upper right-hand corner. That was me being sworn in 2 elections ago. And with me, swearing me in, is my husband, Joe, who's been my partner through all of my elected offices. Maybe not always willingly, but he's game. Caroline Ramberg, congratulations, Carolyn. She was in the newspaper just turning 100. She and I worked together so closely with the League of Women Voters. And Kate Sater, longtime League member who now has left us. And part of the reason that I'm an accidental supervisor is that those 2 folks took me out to lunch, I think maybe after I served as president, much younger. And they said, you need to consider elective office. And I said, what? Really? Why? And I never really thought about it much until the time came when a friend of mine asked me to run for the Santa Rosa School Board. And she was having difficulty on the school board, and Kate Sater helped me with that election. And I had so many league friends walking precincts for me and making phone calls and doing donations. And I was elected by 59 votes. So every vote does count. Don't dissuade yourself. So here are some of the images of my leadership on the Board of Supervisors once I moved from the Board of Trustees of the Santa Rosa High School and Elementary Districts to the City Council, Mayor of Santa Rosa, with a few appointed offices in there, and then was elected supervisor in 2012. I'm in my third and final term. Hear me now, final term. I have a year and a half left on my term. The bottom right is a photo of me testifying before Congress. Congressman Jared Huffman invited me to come and talk to a subcommittee or a committee on the traumas that we experienced during the fires of 2017. And there I am in Sacramento on the lower left, again, testifying about fire-related issues. Next slide, please. There was a little, yay, we had record time passing the budget. And one of the reasons why we passed a budget in June, just 2 weeks and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, was because we didn't spend a lot of time advocating for projects and trying to decide if each of the projects in our districts were worthy of full county funding. And Linda and I asked for $5 million for bike lanes throughout the county. Now, the county is different than the cities. Most of the projects go through the Sonoma County Transportation Authority. Each city is invited to submit 2 bike paths lanes for potential funding. The county is invited to submit 2 projects for 5 districts in the unincorporated area. We still don't have a sustainable funding source for bike lanes and bike paths. And yet we know we want people to be safe. We know the long distances, for example, between Sonoma and Santa Rosa, and we know we have a feasibility study and we're working on it. But that bike path, that critical bike path for pedestrian and cyclist safety, will not be completed probably for another decade or 2. But here's some of the challenges that we have, of course. Next slide, please. I've been advocating for parks, and primarily in the Sonoma Valley, but also serving our county countywide. And we started the first phase of Maxwell Farms Park with the funding that I was able to get from the board last year, critical gap funding for that. The challenge is that regional parks does not really have active athletic and recreational activities. There are a lot of outdoor areas and hiking trails, but there was a park district in Sonoma Valley that was defunct, and regional parks took it over. So it's an accumulation of parks. There are 3 in the Sonoma Valley Springs area, none in Glen Ellen, but a couple in Kenwood. And the board and the county doesn't know how to fund park renovations. The city has Park and Recreations Department. They have an annual budget. They have a capital improvements program, and it's up to each supervisor to advocate for his or her district for funding to renovate the parks. And they're very expensive. So there was a kerfluffle, and the editorial in the PD chastised us for approving $4 million for each of the 4 districts, because we have these projects that are so essential for our district. We had them, we submitted them for board funding requests, and rather than go through the challenging process of deciding what park was more important, what bike path was more important, what pedestrian and safety activity was more important, we divided up the funding that way. We will be coming back to the community, to the board, with some suggestion on how the funding will be spent. Primarily Larson Park. We had a gap of about $1.5 million to get that really worn park, but well-loved park surrounded by disadvantaged communities, fully renovated in the next year. So I'm thrilled that will be able to do that. But I also hope to use some of the funding to fund the Donald Street Gap, the last element of the Highway 12 widening project, and maybe complete a segment of the Sonoma Valley multi-use trail. The bottom left is, I hope everyone has had an opportunity to go hiking there. It's incredible. That's the view. It's accessed off a very potholed Sonoma Mountain Road, which we are gradually repaving, but it is such a gorgeous park. It was accessed through the Ag and Open Space District and then was converted to a park and turned over to the regional parks. Next slide, please. It's really challenging. We are the county, Sonoma, we contribute the largest share of our general fund to repaving roads of any county in California. And all of the projects that you see here, with the exception of the Boys Bridge replacement that was funded by Caltrans, are funded by local tax dollars, SB1 or local tax dollars. So there's the Hannah Center roundabout, which functions beautifully. And I hope we have a number of roundabouts north and south of Sonoma Developmental Center. There's going to be a new roundabout at 116 and 121, avoiding major congestion. And we're in planning for another roundabout in Sonoma Valley. But it's somewhat an anomaly in Sonoma County, even though many of you have navigated around roundabouts. And so primarily, we keep funding to a very large extent our road pavement preservation program. All of our roads, except for the ones that we've repaved, are in sad and deteriorated condition. Next slide, please. So, of course, we know very well about the wildfires. I am in a brand new home. I didn't have to worry about a remodel of a home that was never going to be satisfactory. And the bottom photo in the middle is a photo that a neighbor sent to me during that fateful October of the fire on our hillside leading up to my home. It was traumatic for our community and still flavors every aspect of housing development, roads. We are still suffering PTSD from the gridlock and from the trauma of losing our homes and going through the grief and recovery and arduous rebuilding process. The photo on the lower left was created by the Fiber Guild Council as an homage to the fires. It's Phoenix Rising, of course. It's absolutely breathtaking. It was displayed at the county fair, and I said, we have to have that in our lobby, and they graciously donated it to us, and we hung it. So if you have a chance, go to the lobby of the Board of Supervisors or the administration wing, and there's this magnificent bird rising from the floor. It's incredible. Next slide, please. One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about bike lanes and transit is because I know how difficult it is for so many to adapt to climate change and to navigate along our roads that may be submerged at one point in our future. And there's a photo of San Pablo Bay with Sears Point at the bottom. And we know with the sea level rise, bay level rise, that this is potentially what it might look like. So we've spent a lot of time talking about Highway 37. It was the first major highway that is threatened with inundation. And initially, BCDC, Bay Conservation Development Commission, said that we can't afford to replace it. We're simply going to have to let it go. But they did a feasibility study of transportation throughout the Bay Area, and it was a nightmare. So 4 counties and now regional bodies and Caltrans are going through the thoughtful process of interim projects and the ultimate project. And thank you, Steve Bertelbaugh, for being on those sometimes boring policy committee meetings. Next slide, please. One of the major issues that we have, and certainly an issue in Sonoma Valley, is where's the tipping point for wineries? We have close to 500 wineries, some big, some tiny, all over Sonoma County. And we know that the events that they use to bring people in to showcase their wines produce great gridlock, amplified music all over the valleys, especially in Sonoma Valley. And yet the wine industry is the major, and tourism are the major economic drivers of Sonoma County. So, and they employ a lot of folks, many low-wage folks who struggle to live, to afford the rent, to feed their families. And now many farm workers are organizing because of the requirement that they work in the fields when we have our fires and smoke, producing health impacts. So it's challenging, it's necessary. How do we find balance? And if you want a way to be a part of that conversation, pay attention to what wineries are moving through the BZA and then to the board for approval. Most of the valley floor has been planted using a lot of water, drawing down our aquifers. And now wineries are being proposed up on the mountainsides. Not great when you have roads that are inadequate road widths. Next slide, please. Speaking of water, I served with and worked with May Huddleston and Linda Hungerford and a number of league members to develop Water Watch in Sonoma County. And you think it's dated, it's not so dated. It probably does not appear on the website anymore, but it was presaging some of the water wars, some of the water challenges that we have. Let me just briefly give you some of the challenges. We see the 3 groundwater basins, Santa Rosa Plain, Petaluma Valley, Sonoma Valley. I chair Sonoma Valley and serve on the Petaluma Valley. Of all of the 3 basins, Sonoma Valley is designated as high priority, and it has been, the aquifer has been declining for over a decade. And yet the state fully funded the plans for the Santa Rosa Plain and Petaluma Valley, not Sonoma Valley. We're asking for reconsideration, but that was wrong-headed on their part to not fund the management plan that will help to recharge and kickstart the aquifer recharge. And so there I am touring down in our collector well. One of the technicians from Sonoma Water is pointing out you can climb down maybe 50 to 75 feet down into the collector well. I did not. I was sort of up above. The other water policy that you need to pay attention to is the Potter Valley Project. That is the head of our water supply, and the diversion structure leads water from the Eel River into Lake Mendocino. Without that, the Mendocino County and the Upper Reach would be high and dry or minimal water. It's a challenge to figure out how to work through that, but we're just now at the critical time to figure out when we would and how we would finance a diversion structure operated by perhaps a JPA. Next slide, please. I know you're very involved in housing and homelessness. And here it's ironic to me that I found the pallet shelter homes on the upper left, on the upper left of our screen at a convention. I said, oh, this is very worthwhile. But then we said, yes, it is. Let's bring them to Los Gulicos. They look self-contained and they are not. They all had to be wired. They all had to have sprinkler systems. They all had to be leveled for ADA. They need management, security, services brought in from the county. It's very successful. A lot of people move from Los Gulicos Village to permanent supportive housing. It is the most expensive housing operation or interim shelter operation that the county finances. The next on the upper right are the Quick Haven huts that are in place in Sonoma Valley, and they're still working on placing sanitation facilities. Then they will move the first 19 residents into those small huts. Of course, in clearing Redota Trail, again, we needed to erect tents for a tent encampment. It's managed beautifully, and it is moving folks from there into interim housing or permanent supportive housing. And of course, the housing. The most contentious issue in Sonoma Valley is housing, as well as the need for housing. We apparently don't like change and we don't want to grow. But here we have an illustration of the Verano Apartments, soon to be built as soon as it gets its funding, on Verano intersection or Verano Avenue in Sonoma Valley. Next slide, please. Very, very briefly, we have now appointed a steering committee to help develop the comprehensive master plan for aging. The state has one in place. Now we're taking that information and we'll be doing a lot of outreach in the community to ask you how you think we should find services and support for those over the ages of 60. Caregiving and caregivers, those folks who need caregivers, is one of the challenges that we have in Sonoma County. Next slide, please. You have commented on, and you know that it is an incredible opportunity in Sonoma County. Rarely do we have an opportunity to think about constructing or developing a village, a somewhat comprehensive village with housing, services, education, workforce development, and employment, and a lot of aging buildings, and a long history. Not all of it great history. My light keeps going off. That's why I'm waving. And so, and we have to recognize that this was the home of the Miwok Indians before it became a developmental center over 150 years ago. The board approved a specific plan and an EIR. As many of you know, it has been challenged by a group of not just folks in Sonoma Valley, but countywide, over the scale of development. Even though we were able to pare down the number of houses, they still think it's too old. They still think it's too large in that rural community. So it's headed to court, and it may be resolved as late as or as early next year. But in the meantime, the state has selected a development team of Rogel and Groupie, and they're taking the time while we have this pause to evaluate what would be in a project on that incredible site. The number one issue will be housing, affordable housing, housing for developmentally disabled adults. And what the community wants to see is affordable housing, small number of affordable housing units, and services for the community. So stay tuned. There will be time for the league to get involved and to comment on that. Next slide. Here's just an overview of the protected open space. 700 acres are protected around the footprint of the campus. We've enlarged the wildlife corridor, and we have expanded the setbacks along Sonoma Creek because we know that it's an important wildlife corridor. And I hope that the undeveloped land will move into state parks to be adjoining Jack London parks, as well as the regional park, Sonoma Valley Regional Park. So the ownership management hasn't yet been decided, but legislation has moved forward, allocating or moving it into the state park system and allocating funding. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So as you know, as I mentioned before, Sonoma County employment sector is really dependent on tourism, agritourism, and hospitality. And if you were a child, if your family still has been able to afford to remain in Sonoma Valley, your opportunities for employment of staying in Sonoma Valley rather limited. So I think the STC campus is an opportunity zone for a climate center, as well as a hub for other businesses. And I'm excited about the potential for that. But I know that we need housing, work development, hope to get some of the SRJC classes on the campus to help our students. And I'm excited about the future, but I'm sad that I won't get to dig a shovel into the ground for the ground breaking. But I'm quite sure the next supervisor will benefit from the amazing community outreach and support and discussion about this essential critical piece of Sonoma Valley. Ariel, could you stop sharing the slides, even though that rainbow is beautiful? And I probably took too long, but I'm open for questions.
You didn't take too long at all. That was perfect.
Good.
If you have a question, you could raise your hand, and Lynn or Debbie can, or if I don't see you, yes. Okay, Karen.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Karen. I just saw you.
I know. I was going to say, I forgot to thank you when I saw you at the grocery store for the hand you had in behind the scenes, but I know you had a hand in moving Transcendence, finding a new home for Transcendence for this season. So thank you very much for that. So that's, and like I said, when I got in the car, I thought, oh my God, why didn't I thank you?
And I just went to Transcendence last night. It was marvelous. And for all of us probably on the screen, we all remember the music from the 50s, 60s,
Oh, yeah.
70s. I may have missed a few songs from the 80s. I didn't quite recognize that, but the setting at Belos Cavalos, it was fabulous. But they were only willing to accept the first show. So we had to do double duty really fast to get it permitted for Beltane Ranch. So the rest of the season will be hosted at Beltane Ranch, another incredibly beautiful environment. And for those of you who don't know about Beltane Ranch, it is historic. It was owned and developed and built by an African-American slave from San Francisco who had a little bit of money. The train stopped there for all of the visitors, and she may have rented rooms by the hour. But the firefighters saved that historic bed and breakfast, and I'm so thrilled that it's still there and beautiful. And it's going to be gorgeous. Now, the reason for that is the park rangers have sued Jack London Park and state parks because they think that Transcendence Theater, with 900 people coming to the shows and so many shows, is not appropriate for park activity, even though I know it brought in so many folks who've never experienced the wonder of Jack London Park. So I understand their point. The lower courts ruled in favor of the park and the Transcendence Theater, and it's now being appealed. Hopefully it will result in a new 10-year agreement for Transcendence Theater to preside and enjoy and have all of us enjoy their incredible theater presentations. If you haven't gone, Beltane Ranch is the opportunity you have.
Thank you, Susan. And one other, hopefully quick question. So Hannah Center is talking about a housing project. So what is the role of the Board of Supervisors in that versus, say, your municipal advisory group, and how would that play into it?
Many of you don't really appreciate, because you live in incorporated areas, that we have dense communities in the unincorporated areas that have no formal government except me. And even though I'm an excellent supervisor, we've we've created the municipal advisory councils, two of them in Sonoma Valley, one in the Springs and one in Glen Ellen and Kenwood. They give the voice to the community and decide on priorities. They work with me for funding for some projects. If you haven't participated over Zoom on any of the MACs, please do so. Linda Hopkins has MACs on the river area and the coastal area. James Gore has a MAC in the Mark West area. And I think most of them are hybrid meetings, so you can pop on and see who they are. But part of the challenge of the supervisors in unincorporated areas is to really understand the impacts from development. As I said before, the number one issue in Sonoma Valley is the lack of housing, especially affordable housing. Number two issue is mental health services, which are not fully funded or provided in Sonoma Valley. And so we have approved the specific plan and the SDC, and about a mile south on Arnold Drive is the Hannah Boys Center. And they've been going through an amazing transition, turning into a mental health hub and continuing to work with foster youth and youth in need. But they've lent 60 acres across the street, and they're proposing 600, 700 units plus a little commercial center for seniors, all age, affordable, market rate, right on the Hannah roundabout, if you are familiar with driving down Arnold Drive. And of course, the community has loved enjoying that vacant, beautiful land crisscrossed by creeks with nothing on it. And yet it has water, sewer, transit. So it's a perfect place for housing. The project has been submitted to Permit Sonoma. When they've completed the appropriate studies, it will be referred to the Sonoma Valley Citizens Advisory Commission. Thank you, Ariel Kubo-Jones, for staffing that. And we'll probably have all two of the MACs preside over that when that is heard by the developers. And then it will come as advisory. They're advisory. They're not an approval body. And the Permit Sonoma uses their advice to determine what key comments need to be studied and then brought forward to the Board of Zoning Adjustments. I suspect the Planning Commission and it's probably the Board of Zoning Adjustments will look at that project with a fine-tooth comb regarding fire evacuations, 2-lane road, water, sewer, how much development is too much, and then they will move it to the Board of Supervisors. I don't know whether I will get to preside over that or not. Sometimes large developments take a long time, as we saw with the Sonoma Developmental Center. Hopefully that answers your question, Karen.
Great. Leona?
Well, first of all, I can see that you have been very, very busy as a supervisor, along with your other colleagues.
And I've not been busy with the League of Women Voters. Thank you for excusing me.
Well, that segues into my next comment. What sort of plans do you have after you finish your term in office?
I was waiting for that question.
She wants the VP executive position.
Wait, I've held that before. Wait, I've been a president. Wait, I've been voter service. Wait, I've been membership. So I've worked with many of you over all of those functions, and we'll see. I might have some more time to give. I might be working on the Sonoma Valley Multi-Use Trail while I'm still somewhat young enough to ride a bike, although I'm shopping for an e-bike, so you never know. And so I don't know. I say that I'm going to exercise, lose weight, get in shape for hiking and biking. And I jokingly say I'm going to raise chickens.
Juanita.
And my husband says, no, you're not.
Well,
I will not be running for another elective office. That's for sure.
all of those resolutions we all made when we were retired. I need to see how they went, but I I would invite you to communications on the league. You're very good at communicating and there's lots of work there. But I did have a quick question about the development center. There are some wonderful old buildings on that site. Are any of them salvable or are they
Yes.
going to have to go?
No, a lot of them will have to go, but the iconic brick building, which is so beautiful, has been
Yeah.
shuttered for decades. That's on the National Historic Registry. It will not be torn down. And although people don't necessarily, excuse me, want to see a hotel on the site, I envision a hotel conference center, and maybe that's the only function that can afford to rehab that building. The
Yeah.
superintendent's house is also, it looks like a Winchester Mystery House, but it's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it probably should be on the historic registry. The Historic Society of Sonoma Valley is hoping to get the whole campus on as a historic district. But the reports from long ago that the state commissioned suggested that once they get the utilities workable with HVAC system, new electrical system, water, sewer, that there are a number of buildings that could be immediately usable. And I'm hoping that those are the buildings that might house Santa Rosa Junior College classes, workforce development classes, climate center, and so, and maybe a hub for some nonprofits. So I'm excited about that, but it's probably the development once they resolve the lawsuit or lawsuits, there may be more. It may be 10 to 20 years before that campus then reaches its potential.
I'm glad
Susan-
about preserving the buildings. I love them.
Susan, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about going into politics? We hopefully will have a training, or we're going to have a YouTube training at least on trying to encourage people to run for office. What advice would you give?
A number of women have entered the Emerge program in San Francisco. I know Lori Gallion and Deb Fudge went through the Emerge program. Although it's a distance away, they may have virtual training sessions. So that might be an opportunity. Look around for local seminars, webinars. I know my consultant, Dan Mullen, is planning a number of webinars for people serving in office during challenging times, how to get involved in issues. I would say your very first step is to get involved with the League of Women Voters. You knew that was coming because the League is such an important training ground for learning about public policies, issues, critical issues, learning that you too can write to elected officials asking for answers. You might consider joining the grand jury if you have the time, because they are just a more formal organization similar to the League, where they field through complaints, and you might look at the most recent grand jury. So that's a good training ground, or simply asking me out for coffee or coming up to the Rebuild House. And I would be glad to host a number of you, especially those folks who are interested in running for office, hopefully not several months before the election, but a year or two before the election. And then we can talk to you, and I can invite a couple of other electeds in to talk to you about our experiences in running for smaller offices. A school board is a good place to start. That's where I started. City council, of course, especially the smaller city councils. Santa Rosa is the big leagues, but now that we have district elections, I'm amazed that we have uncontested elections with the City of Santa Rosa Council. And Merrill said, yay, Merrill, I've worked with you since incorporation for Windsor, and you're starting Leadership Council. Leadership Santa Rosa, Leadership Institute is a great place to learn about public policy issues. So look around, send me an email, I'll shoot you in the right direction.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions for Susan? you've done an amazing job as representing Sonoma County. We really appreciate all your hard work and effort, and we're really pleased that you were here today to give us a snapshot of that. So,
And thank you so much. I recognize so many faces that I worked with over the years. Thank you for your continuing work with the League. And just as a coincidence, the two Susans on the screen are wearing fuchsia. Yay. Apparently we got that email, Susan Novak. Thank
and you're
you
both
all.
living up on too.
Thank you all. And I can hang around. I'll hang around for a while you
Great.
go through the rest of your business, but then I have to leave short while. Thank
Okay.
you all for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to some of our reports from our committee chairs. And Leona Judson, you're going to start with advocacy.
Oh, okay. I'm up first. I'm going to need to do a screen share. Let's see. Let me do this. Can I screen share?
You should.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, anybody can do a screen share.
Oh, okay.
But be careful what you screen share.
Right. So I'll just go ahead. Basically, let's discuss the main report is actually now on our website. So I'm just going to highlight some of the major topics that we have addressed and dealt with and taken action on in the last 22-23 year session. So the areas of emphasis, you see them here. They haven't really changed much over the last 2 or 3 years. And you might wonder, why is housing and unsheltered in red? Well, the reason why it's in red is right now we do not have any champion that's really following this. So if you're looking for something to do with the League, you can check in with Jim Masters, who's taking over advocacy for me, and he would be happy to get you started with this, because there is a need there. So here are some of our hot topics. The revised well ordinance, you might have been following that in the newspaper. There recently was a revised county well ordinance, which was undertaken because of a lawsuit around public trust. So our League joined with other organizations in a letter to the Board of Supervisors and others outlining some of our concerns about the revised well ordinance. And that is still kind of an ongoing issue in our view. The Sonoma Developmental Center, Susan went into a fair amount of detail about this. This state-owned property was up for sale. And our League wrote a letter in support of a proposal that the Historic Preservation Alternative organization put together. Their bid included keeping the land in public ownership, which was really an appeal for us, and advocated for a much smaller footprint for housing and a bigger wildlife corridor. As we now learned, that did not pass, but in fact, the Board of Supervisors adopted the Permit Sonoma proposal, and that's what went with the state. But as Susan also pointed out, there's still much to be done about that.
Leona, let me just, a slight correction. The board did, the Permit Sonoma proposal was 1,000 units with a density bonus would be 1,500 units. We said, and the board, 3 votes, supported a proposal to put a maximum of 750 units with 620 as a base unit. So we significantly reduced the development footprint on that campus.
Yes, I was aware. I didn't put all that detail in there, but yes, I'm aware of that. And that was a good move. Next, coal train. Well, this was about a year ago, I guess. A shadowy group out of Wyoming wanted to ship coal from there up to Humboldt Bay. They wanted to rebuild the abandoned railroad on a stretch from Cloverdale to Willett, which passes over the Eel River. And we teamed up with Mendocino and Humboldt League of Women Voters to write to the Federal Surface Transportation Board, which is an agency, a federal agency that manages all railroads, or rather promotes either rail banking or whatever. And we advocated for them to rail bank that stretch of railroad, which has been done. It took a lot of effort from the state level. Our supervisor, our state representatives were very involved in this. Fire safe roads. The county continues to approve new developments in unincorporated fire-prone areas in defiance of the Department of Forestry regulations regarding fire-safe roads that are essential for evaluation in our fire-prone era. So recently, our League of Women Voters has approved taking action with regard to Sonoma County agencies, or if they're complying or not with the state standards. So this is an ongoing thing, which we'll learn more about as time goes on. And lastly, we've instituted the monthly Monday League meetings. This will kind of be moving over from advocacy over to the program planning, but we started these monthly meetings, mostly by Zoom, which are primarily educational. So we've done a number of forums. We've recently had one with NAACP outlining their issues. We had one with the Laguna de Santa Rosa, and we've had one with our chief librarian talking about some of the library issues. So keep tuned when you get those emails about monthly Monday League meetings. Join in. So those are the highlights of what we've been doing. We also follow many commissions and committee meetings, and you can read all about it in our annual report, which is now on our website. Any comments or questions?
No, but I'll reiterate what Nancy Richardson just wrote about. Thank you, Leona, for your hard work. So you did a good job of heading up that committee, and we look forward to what you're going to do on program.
Okay, thank you very much.
We also look forward to Jim Masters stepping up to take on advocacy. It's a big job. So we appreciate both the hard work.
And he will do very well with it.
So we'll turn this over to Lynn Dooley, who's going to talk about youth outreach.
Well, before we do, Rick Lutman has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify one thing, Leona. The Redwood Trail Agency wants to rail bank the entire railroad line from Cloverdale to Arcata. They've already succeeded in doing that from Willits to Arcata. And that's not particularly controversial. But they want to rail bank the section from Cloverdale to Willits, and that is very controversial because rail banking it would essentially be the death of the railroad, and this would be very unfortunate because rail is a much more efficient way to transport freight, and there's no particular reason that they can't do what is being done by SMART down here in the southern part of the line and put a trail beside the rail. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to thank Rick. He's our transportation guru. He is our representative on the SCTA, and he's worked with SMART and has been very, very helpful on all transportation issues. Okay, Lynn, youth outreach.
Okay, so I'm Lynn Dooley, and I head up the Youth Outreach Committee, which is a subcommittee of voter service. And the League's core values include and spotlight defending and promoting democracy. We in the Youth Outreach Committee feel the most effective way to accomplish those goals is to educate youth on voting and register youth to vote. Our goal is to establish the habit of civic engagement in high school and college students in a way that we can promote and create lifelong voters and defenders of democracy. That's our mission. Our committee has made significant impact this fiscal year, and I'd like to take just a minute to tell you what we've accomplished. At the start of the school year last fall, our high school in-classroom trainers visited 18 classrooms at Annalee High, Roseland University Prep, and Windsor High. Sadly, the violence at Montgomery High School in March made it understandably difficult to get into classrooms in the spring. Nonetheless, our dedicated teams did present at Laguna High and Petaluma High. We trained an additional 10 new presenters this year, many of whom went right to work and went into classrooms. All in all, our committee spoke to 650 students and registered or pre-registered 365 students to vote this last fiscal. I want to say that again, 650 students and registered or pre-registered 365 students. It's pretty amazing. I'd like to extend a very special thank you to Elaine Koval and Nancy Lewis, who kept this program alive before, during, and after the pandemic and presented in 16 of our 21 classrooms. Elaine and Nancy four-handedly spoke to 425 students and registered 262 students. I think we should really give Nancy and Elaine a big round of applause. So I'd like to just take a moment and do that right now. Also this fiscal, we launched our League of Women Voters Elections Ambassador Program. The momentum of this peer-to-peer voter registration program that targets college students is building at Sonoma State University. We hope to include Santa Rosa Junior College and expand our footprint at SSU in the fall. We kicked off this program with a tabling event on the Sonoma State University campus where currently four college student elections ambassadors introduced the program to 85 students who were in the area. We have established partnerships with a number of Sonoma County community organizations, including the Climate Center's Rapid Response Team, the Unitarian Universalist Church, the Sonoma County Libraries, and the Sonoma Office of Education. These partnerships, we're hoping, will expand the impact of our programs and provide volunteers and promotion. We have more community organizations in our sites. We're targeting more in the future. So while I have a few more things to share, I'd like to take a moment to thank all the members of our committee by name, and a lot of them are here today. Robin Bramhall, Elaine Koval, Evan Farmer, Clelly Gummer, Paula Hawks, Leona Judson, Lorraine Kelman, Nancy Lewis, Lee Lipinski, Anicia Lustig Elson, Jim Masters, Debbie McKay, Jody Nunez, Gail Peterson, Chris Reisenman, Donna Roper, Linda Rosen, Therese Schurer, Gail Van, Karen Weeks, and Connie Williams. Thanks to everybody. So our work will become even more important this fall and in 2024. We all know why. And so we feel this work is very worthwhile, and we'd like to invite you to join this vibrant and fun committee. We could use more in-classroom presenters and help in leadership roles, of course. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I will put my contact in the chat. But there are some things to do if you only have a few hours to donate. This August and September, you could help us pick up or drop off youth materials from the printer to the League office. You could help us organize youth materials at the League office. Literally, a couple of hours would make a huge difference for us. You could also help us make phone calls or stuff envelopes to the schools. Throughout the summer and into September, you could help us make phone calls to community organizations, or you could help us update existing information sheets that we're hoping to post on our website. All of the details of these jobs would be supplied. You wouldn't have to do anything except show up and do them. You could make a big difference in our program, and I will put the contact information for that in the chat as well. A full report about all this stuff is in the annual report that's on our website. I hope you'll help us create the habit of voting for Sonoma County youth. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Lynn. You've done an excellent job of that committee. We have great hopes for the future too. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So Karen Weeks and Therese Schurer, which of you are going to present, or both of you?
Therese is going to kick it off.
This is Voter Services.
Right. I just wanted to provide a few highlights because our written report is definitely on the website. So I think all of you who are members of League of Women Voters are well aware of what Voter Services does, but we work in creating a more informed voting public. And so I just wanted to go through a few of the things we've done over the past year and as we look forward to the next year. And Karen's going to jump in and offer additional comments. So one of our most visible activities is the candidates forums. And over last year's midterm season, we presented 8 forums, and some of those included city council, town council, and mayoral elections in Petaluma, Sebastopol, Rohnert Park, Santa Rosa, and Windsor. And in a number of these communities, we did 2 forums because there were multiple districts with multiple candidates. And so that made for the need to break that down into more forums. We have been doing all the forums virtually, and we're using 3 platforms. We're using Zoom, and we have people who attend the live webinars. We're using live streaming to Facebook and to YouTube, and it's allowing us to reach a much broader audience. And what we found after looking at the stats of how many people are viewing the forum recordings on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook, where they can go back and look at them. We had over 5,000 viewers after the actual forums themselves. 20% of those were viewing the Spanish language versions. So I just want to say that virtual has its drawbacks and its advantages. And one of the huge advantages, which really advances our mission in voter service, is reaching a much broader audience and reaching a more diverse audience. So now we wouldn't have been able to do all that without the training that we did last fall and the almost 20 volunteers that helped us put forward those forums. And so I just want to thank all those volunteers who were trained and then executed all these forums. We will be holding another training coming up this fall in preparation for 2024. And we'd invite folks to join us for that. And we'll be focusing on some key positions that we need for the forums. That would be Zoom host and co-host, moderator, and the organizer of those forums. So Karen, did you have more to mention about the forums?
Not really, other than we will need people to help us in the 2024 election season. As you all know, there'll be a primary in March where there'll be 3 supervisorial seats up, including Susan's. So we'll be doing forums for that. And then again, whoever takes over voter service next season will need a team of people. So if you are interested and you're not quite sure if you really are interested or not, come to the training anyway, because you may find a spot for you.
Lynn, did you have a question?
I think Debbie McKay.
Debbie's hand.
And Debbie?
So I just wanted to add one other thing we're exploring for the future. Not everybody, we realize, has access to internet and Zoom. And so we're exploring with the local library branches the possibility of them hosting sessions when we're doing our candidate forums where people could watch it at a library facility. So they would be able to come and use the library's internet access. So that's something in the next year we're going to be exploring as another way to kind of reach out to the unserved communities. So we're really excited about that possibility.
And added to that, thank you, Debbie, for bringing that up. The new Boys and Girls Club in Roseland, we've talked to Magali Tejas, who runs that, and she's also interested in working with us in hosting like a viewing party for people who don't have that kind of access.
Yes, we are busy developing ideas for additional sponsorships and partnerships. This is the phase in which we're starting to think through all those, just like has been mentioned for some of the other areas of our work. I wanted to go on and tell a little bit about the pros and cons presentations on the propositions. This past year that was headed up by Lynn Dooley, and that was a partnership with the Marin County League And I think over 40 volunteers were involved from the Sonoma County League, Marin County League, Sonoma State, and Dominican University. So there was a very potent partnership between organizations and league organizations and educational institutions. So they brought, I'm just looking for some of our numbers. They did more than 20 trainings and offered a large number that I don't have on hand of presentations of the pros and cons on the 7 propositions.
20.
So
Right.
they did 20 presentations, and then a lot of those presentations were viewed. The recordings of those were also viewed. So, so thanks to Lynn for her work on that. I also wanted to mention Voters Edge, which is a way to access for voters to access information about candidates and propositions. And Sue Jackson heads up that initiative and keeps on the candidates to get their information to the point where we had 95% participation among candidates in Sonoma County. So yay on that. So that furthers our mission of trying to inform voters. Another area we work on is voter registration, the distribution of the forms, the physical forms for people who still want to use paper forms. And Jim Masters heads that up. We have 92 locations where those forms are distributed by almost 20 volunteers. So you can see we're adding up the numbers here. We've got probably close to 100 volunteers. Maybe a couple are duplicated between those, but we really have a lot of volunteers that we are thankful for in doing all that work. We also want to mention the library visits and the tabling parades and tabling events that typically I think Debbie McKay has most of a hand in, and I believe there are other helpers with that too. But we've been to many events with many volunteers. So the weekly markets in Santa Rosa, the Sebastopol farmers markets, the Sonoma County Library branches, the parades, including the butter and eggs and the apple blossom. So we reach out in ways to engage people in learning about voting and learning about their rights and getting them registered. So many thanks to the group that works on that. One more item is our letter writing campaigns organized through a national group called Vote Forward. And in our league, that is promoted heavily by Debbie McKay and Leona Judson. And they got together, I think, close to 1,500 letters this last election season, getting letters written here and sent out to reluctant voters in some swing states mostly. I think there were more than 50 volunteers that participated in that. So I just want to thank all those people that we specifically called out, but also the many 100+ volunteers who've been helping on this front, as well as our committee members. So, Karen, anything more?
No, I don't think so.
These two have worked really hard to make all this happen. I think we're certainly meeting our mission of outreach and education to our community, because the candidate forums, the pros and cons, and all of the outreach has been very, very positive. So thank you, you two. And also, just to follow up on outreach, we do want to do more tabling. What we need, of course, is more volunteers to step up. It's pretty easy to do. Everything is boxed up, and we have tables that you can take to the events. And we'd love for people to at least identify tabling opportunities. And if you can volunteer to help, that would be great. Juanita?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has done this amazing work, and underscore the League is primarily an organization of people volunteering to do things. We, the dues are nice, the donations are nice, but our work is largely done by a lot of people chipping in. And so do what you can help us out. Thank you.
But speaking of that, we never have enough volunteers and members. So we'd love for you to spread the word about membership. And that's part of what we do at tabling events is promote the league, because a lot of people don't know about the League of Women Voters, and we certainly want to get more members involved. So please keep that up. Delegate reports. Leona Judson, Therese Scherer, and I went to the California League of Women Voters Convention, which was held in San Francisco. So it was very convenient for us. My first California convention. So it was very eye-opening. There's a lot of work being done. We got very inspired. Lots of leagues doing very interesting things. And I'm going to turn it over to Leona and Therese to give a couple of highlights. Leona, you want to unmute yourself and you can tell us what happened. Give us your highlights.
Okay. Well, let's see. I was very impressed with one keynote speaker, Kathy Darling Aline, I think is her last name. She was head of Registrar of Voters from Shasta County, with a very conservative county, and their board of supervisors voted to eliminate the Dominion vote counting machines. I felt that they were not that they were fraudulent somehow, which there was no proof of that being. And anyway, so she was forced to do a hand count of all the votes. So anyway, she described that experience, and it was very interesting. One of the most interesting thing, I'll just leave it at this, was a social justice success workshop that I went to, and a very interesting speaker there. He was a former prisoner. His name was Chris Johnson, and he was part of this Success Stories organization, and they have a 12-week program for prisoners to kind of relearn a narrative about their life that helped turn them around in terms of contributing to their community. So that was very interesting. I also went to a caucus on update on healthcare. The new League of Women Voters position and the California Commission report. The speaker was Dr. Henry Abrams, and he presented some of the current legislation which is going on currently to try to get more funding. The goal is to get universal health care insurance for everyone in California, and that there is some legislation moving forward to remove some of the barriers toward that and to cement some of the financing. And he gave a fairly convincing argument that this could actually lower our healthcare costs. So I'll leave it at that. It was I agree with Donna, it was a very useful and enlightening convention.
And Therese?
All right, just a couple of things. I echo what fellow delegates or co-delegates have said. And it was my first California convention. I was duly impressed. And there were roughly, 60 leagues, 60 local leagues represented, some really strong state League of Women Voters of California staff that spoke, and put together a really tremendous program. And I did some focus, I would say, on youth outreach and on voting issues, such as redistricting. And so I would invite folks to take a look at the report that I believe is either on our website or will be on our website, because it contains a lot of links to really important information. There's actually a link that goes to the convention workshops and caucuses, and you can see what the various presentations were. You can link into the presentations themselves if you want more detail on those. So I attended a couple of workshops, one on get out the vote successes, and one on using social media, and also how people expand the readership of their voter and how they enrich their voter newsletters. A couple more workshops or caucuses on redistricting. The League of Women Voters of California has a report that came out this January on fair maps called The Promise of Fair Maps. It's something that I would urge you to take a look at. It was as the 2020 local redistricting cycle concluded, the report takes a step back and evaluates the effectiveness of the Fair Maps Act and related independent redistricting commission reforms. So it's very important even in our state. And another caucus that I went to had a panel of youth that were speaking about, well, actually a panel of League of Women Voters from different counties who are working with youth to engage them. And so of course, Marin County was one of those with their ambassador program, which we are now also working on an ambassador program, thanks to Lynn Dooley. Also Alameda County and Solano County each had some both civics education and some creative, actual trivia gaming ways for people to learn and increase their voting literacy. So like I said, a bunch of these links to these presentations and various tools are in the convention report that's online. So.
Yeah, I think it'll be coming out in the next voter, in the voter newsletter. We'll be highlighting that.
I also wanted to thank the league for offering the opportunity for myself and other delegates to be able to attend this. I thought it was very worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a great way to learn more about the league. So I'm hoping that any of you who would love to learn more about the league and get more involved in our league to become a delegate. So if you're interested in that, they meet every 2 years, and the state or the national convention is in the opposite year. So that's also another opportunity. Juanita?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask very quickly, were there any, I know they always decide on budget and officers, were there any other substantive decisions made at this convention?
No, it was pretty much a slam dunk. There wasn't any contentious items or anything, but we should be very pleased that Jody Nunez, who's a member of our league, is going to be a board member for the California League. She recently moved to Sonoma County from Oakland. She's been involved in the league for a long time. So that'll be great to have her involvement.
Yeah, it's always fun to see the league make decisions, because a lot of the things that play out in democracy play out in the league decision making.
Yeah, they have a great website. So if you want to learn more, that's a good place to go.
And I'll definitely want to hear from Teresa about that voter part of it too. So, yeah. Wonderful.
Anything else? Any questions, any concerns from our members? This is our annual meeting. So if you had something you'd like to bring up, you could certainly do that now. We hope in the future to have a better venue so that people can ask questions or bring up issues. And we will be meeting in person a couple of times throughout the year. So we hope to be able to shake your hands or give you a hug in the future.
Donna, it was asked if Susan's presentation would be available to us.
Susan Gorin's? Yeah.
Well,
you or Debbie would need to answer that for me.
Okay, we'll find out. We'll find out.
Okay. Okay, if I have nothing else on the floor, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave. Okay. Karen's moving. And Leona's seconding. Thank you very much. I'm sure you're all in favor. You want to get on to your life. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for your involvement. We appreciate it. And I'm asking the board members to please stay on after we end.
Can we take a quick break before we get to board business?
Sure.
Maybe a 5-minute break.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just was reading an article that you should sit no more than 30 minutes before you get up and exercise for 5. So
there you go, Teresa.
So here we go.
You lead some calisthenics, Juanita.
Need a little disco music, I think.
Okay, be right back.
Nice to see you, Jean. Hope you're doing well. There should be a red button, Jean, that says leave at the bottom of your screen. Click on the bottom of your screen. And there should be a little red button that says leave. And then click on that. Linda, which national parks are you headed to? Wait, you're muted.
We are going Grand Teton, Yellowstone, National, up to Glacier. And
Oh yeah,
then,
you had mentioned Glacier, yeah.
yeah, and then Calgary and Banff, and then over, coming into Washington and not real clear. And then we don't know. I mean, basically that was, so we went backwards. We've got reservations through Yellowstone and then figure 5 days to come home. My latest goal, and we're struggling with it, is drive 200 miles a day with a break every 2 hours and be at the campsite by 2 o'clock at night in the afternoon. Because it's another hour. It's another hour to set up the camp, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of my plan too. I'm leaving Wednesday morning. Gonna hit Great Basin National Park and then Great Sand Dunes. Yeah, I've not been to those two, and then a few on the East Coast and heading up to Canada. So
what? How many days are you gone?
I'm gonna be gone 5 weeks.
Oh,
yeah. But it's such a great way to see the country. I mean, it's just, everybody should do it, I think, at least once. There's so many beautiful, beautiful areas to see.
Right.
It's fun.
I was just reading about Glacier. There was maybe like 150 years ago, there was 150 glaciers, and we're now down to 24.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, just the national parks are so amazing.
Mm-hmm. And not
there's
just
a friendship park there, Linda. Try
yes.
to hit that. Oh, you've seen. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, it's not just the national parks, it's the national monuments, it's the national seasides, it's the national historic. There's just,
years ago, 50 years ago, probably, we stumbled into Dinosaur National Monument. We were driving west and there's a sign, and so we drove up there. Amazing place.
Right.
Oh, I had an epiphany there years ago.
Whoa. Are you going to tell us what the epiphany was?
Well, it was just, it was so amazing. They had this display, as I recall, where the dinosaurs went, this far. I can't even stretch long enough in time, and the human evolution was like here.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of, and it kind of gave me a little hope that that somehow this Earth will survive. Of course, now I'm a little more skeptical because of climate change, but still.
The other thing about that place is that just the fact that you could actually reach out and touch that far back in time.
Yes.
Amazing.
I mean, it does show that we are adaptable, that things adapt. Yes, we might die out. We'll be like the dinosaurs, but something else will evolve. I don't know. Or a whole new planet. I don't know. You're right. I mean, it just, things change. That's what happens.
Change.
Bugs will survive us.
The roaches, right?
Well, then
they'll have a fabulous time.
The opposite of that is the new telescope that is looking.
Oh, the Webb, yeah.
The Webb telescope that you can see galaxies. I mean, they just pointed, this is a little space in the sky, and are these hundreds of galaxies.
I've got NASA app on my phone, and every day they post a picture with information. And it's
Oh,
just,
from the
oh my
web?
gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll have to look
Oh
that
my
up.
gosh.
That sounds
Oh my
great.
gosh. Oh my gosh. You know,
I need to get that app.
Yeah, that sounds
yeah,
great.
it's a great app. It's a great
Yeah.
app.
Okay, I don't want to keep you guys too long, so I just want to have a brief conversation. In fact, Judy's list, thank you, Judy, for putting that together. 243 people that we've lost over the last, well, that's 7 years. I think it went back to 2015.
Right.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of memberships that we could, and clearly some of them have passed away probably or moved or whatever, but I think we could really reach out to them, would be good. Debbie.
You guys all probably haven't had a chance to look at this, but I did put together a letter that I thought we could send out to all these people.
Oh,
And if you want, I can do a screen share and put it up on the screen.
That'd be great, Debbie.
Okay, so before we get into that, we have two problems. One is just the renewal process, and part of why we've lost members is that we seem to get quite a few people every year that just don't get through that process. So we've got like 33 people that we need to figure out beyond Club Express, what is our process? Because in the past, we sent letters. Club Express does it by email, but right off the bat, there's 14 members that we never get that way, and because of various problems with their email, at least that many. And then there are people that, you know, who knows where their emails are going or whether they pay attention or they're just forgetting. So we need to figure out a process just for the renewal, as well as we need to think about how we can reclaim some of these other members, or, you know, some
Okay,
of.
well,
So-
probably Debbie's letter could be adaptable for both, I'm assuming. But
Well,
you're right.
I think we agreed at the last board meeting that we were going to send a letter to anybody who hadn't renewed by the end of June. We were going to send a letter. It was going to have a membership application in there to gather their information and a return address envelope in there. And we were going to invite them to send a check. So I think at our last board meeting, we decided to do that.
Did we actually make the decision, or would you talk?
Yeah, we made a decision. Now, we didn't say who was going to do that. That's
Right.
always the problem, but we did make a decision to do that. So I think today we need to decide who is going to actually do that.
Yeah, and I can do that, but I can't do it until August.
Well, the last letter from Club Express, last email will go out mid-June. Or yeah.
No, this is end of June.
Mid-July.
Mid-July.
Membership
so August.
expires the end of this month. So
Okay.
a couple weeks after that, the last letter will go, email will go out. We probably need to send a letter maybe a week after that to anyone who hasn't renewed. Right. So the 1st of August would be okay. Memberships won't technically expire until the 30th of August. So
Okay. Perfect. All right.
So Donna, you'll send that letter?
I can do the letter.
Okay, you'll need the list, which you can do a mail merge.
Yeah. What I'd like to do on that letter, though, is to change our letterhead that the board members would be listed maybe on the left-hand side, because I think some people will join based on who the board people are. So if you guys are okay with that, I'm sure one of you who are smarter than me could take our letterhead and add our board member names to it. Is everyone okay with having their name on the letterhead?
Sure.
Okay, great.
So
Karen?
who's gonna do that? Who's gonna actually add it to the letterhead? Who knows how to do that?
Judy, thank you, Judy.
Okay.
That'd be great. And Karen, and then we'll come back to Debbie.
So are you talking about sending it to the long list that Judy sent us?
No, not
the short
that's
list.
the
Shorter
second-
list. Okay.
That's the second conversation. This conversation is about current members who haven't renewed by August 1st.
Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
we need
I'm
to
sorry, I
do this.
misunderstood.
We need to do this pretty routinely.
Yeah.
Okay, because there were some people on that longer list who I know have moved out of the area and have died, so.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, we need to refine that longer list a little bit.
Yeah, so if
Sorry
everybody,
about that.
if everybody
But,
could go, if everybody could go through that list, and if you do know someone has moved away or they've passed away, let's add a column. Can we do that, Judy, on your list? Can we can do that? Add a column? Okay,
well,
you're
we
muted,
should
Judy.
we should probably update our database to reflect
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, as
Well, I
people are
don't think,
reporting into me, I will be adding that.
yeah, I don't want everybody in the database, so yes,
No,
okay, that,
no,
that's
everybody
easier.
tonight in the database.
Maybe that's easier, Judy, if that's okay. People can just send you that information and not do it
Yeah.
on the Excel spreadsheet. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So if you go through the list and you know someone has passed away or moved, please send that to Judy.
And
And
Judy
if you
will
could,
update the database then.
if you could do that by August 1st, so you have a whole month to do that. Leona, is that about the current letter or what?
No, oh, it's about the long list.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if, like, I have contacted some of those people because they've been on the advocacy committee and haven't attended meetings. If you know of anybody, a phone call might be helpful, just to verify what their status is, and then send that information on to Judy.
Great idea.
Jim, did you say you would call all the people in Spring Lake Village on the long list or the short list?
I was looking only at the long list. We had 3 people who are deceased and 3 people who basically are no longer functional. But I'll call everybody else at Spring Lake Village.
And Jim, I'll be happy to help you with that.
Good.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, Debbie, share your letter, please.
Okay. So can people see that?
Mm-hmm.
Make it bigger.
Can you make it a little bigger?
I'm not sure how to do that.
So in the
Click on
lower
click on the dot. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, lower right hand.
There's 100%,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and you just scooch
Not-
it.
There we go.
Whoa.
Not that.
There's,
that.
that's better.
Okay, so the idea is that we would kind of praise people for being supportive of us in the past, as a way to kind of start out, and then talk about how much the league is a vital asset to our community, and ask them to kind of look at some of our accomplishments and hit some of the highlights that's in our report. I think we should enclose that whole annual report in with the letter, but if you hit the highlights, if they don't read the report, at least they'd look at some of the significant things we're doing, such as the pros and cons, the candidate forums and how many people we reached, the number of students we registered, and the fact that we sent out all those letters to reluctant voters, and then encourage them, to read the full report, and then talk about how they, through their membership, have made a difference in the past. So again, we're sort of recognizing what they've done, and then invite them to rejoin the league as we're approaching the 2024 election. And if membership isn't a good fit for them at this time, to then consider making a donation, and talk about the fact that we need the money for the Spanish translation and the other things we're doing, and then acknowledge that they get frequent solicitations from the California League and the National League, which is a turnoff for some people, but say we only ask them for money once a year, so we're asking for it now. And if they want questions or want more information, to contact whoever is signing the letter, and then tell them how they can become members again. I think keeping it short, sweet, hitting a few points, and just see if we can lure any of those folks back again. And if they won't come back, then get them maybe to make a donation. So that's the
Debbie,
thought.
can you show more of the letter? And for
Yeah,
the
I'd
board,
like to see what you say about how to join.
we can only see that one paragraph. And also where it lists the accomplishments, I would do those in bullet points.
Yeah, we can do that. So here's the part where what they do on membership, there'd be a membership application and a return envelope in the letter to them, telling them that, fill those out, or you can also join online, give them our website. And if you need assistance, to contact Juanita. So a lot of people can't make it through the system online. They get frustrated and they just give up.
Yeah, I think anything.
Also, the PayPal is getting people.
Yep. Well, we had a lot of, the bulk of our renewals already have been through PayPal. So most people navigate, but PayPal is doing some weird things, as Linda will attest.
Well, I think the people we're
and
not getting
Julie.
are people that get stymied at that. And they
Yeah,
just give up.
so I would say anything we send out, we should offer a contact.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that's
And if-
why I would say that, if you have questions or want information, please contact me, and then your name,
Yeah.
whoever is signing this would be there along with contact information.
Right.
So I think the more we could make this personal, like it would be a letter from, for example, it could be a letter from Donna as our current president and me as the past president, or it could be us dividing up this list and each of us take 20 people and our name are on it. I mean, I don't think it matters who, it just matters that there's some kind of personal interaction with these folks.
Right.
Debbie, is it communication at LWV or communications?
I don't know. Good question for Juanita. Is it plural, Juanita?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay. All right, so let's double check that. Lynn and then Therese.
Yeah, I really think letters kind of help because an email is transient, whereas a letter sits there and they remember to pay the bill.
I think we're in agreement on that. Lynn and then Therese.
Yeah, so I do not like PayPal at all, and I renewed my membership, but couldn't find a way to put a credit card in. And so I keep forgetting to send a check, but I will do that. I just wrote it up while we were talking about it. But is there a way to get a credit card on there? Because PayPal is not for everybody.
So
there is a way to do it, but you've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep going back and back.
Well, you have to go through PayPal though.
No, well, see, that's not
clear. It comes through PayPal, but you don't have to go through PayPal. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, that's what I stumbled on, is that I was able to put my personal credit card in. Okay, so then the choice became, do I want to use PayPal or my credit card? And that's what I was able to do.
Okay,
and you've got to hit that like 3 times, Lynn. You got to keep pushing. I want to pay by credit card.
Yeah.
But
That's what we're losing, the people that don't want to go through PayPal.
Exactly. I agree.
And I didn't see that
we are,
option. That
we are not restricted to PayPal on Club Express. They also support, what is it, Stripe?
Yeah, but we don't want to, at this point, take on our payment system that we have to manage. Each one of us has to be managed.
Yeah, we just need to figure out how to make it easier to put in your credit card.
Yeah, well, it's on PayPal. It's not on us that it's a problem.
Okay.
Marcia,
so Linda and
do we want Marcia in this call? No.
Who's Marcia?
Marcia Voss Dupree.
I think she's signing in late to the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna ignore her.
Oh, say hi.
So Linda and Juanita, could you work on that PayPal thing and get that fixed for us? Therese and Jim, then Leona.
So on a similar note, on the letter where it says contact somebody, please put the phone number, or could we consider putting the phone number as well as an email address? If people are having trouble accessing things online, they may not be comfortable with email either. So a phone number really helps for some people who want to use that method.
Good idea.
And Lee, you're checking that fairly quite a bit, right? So if people are calling, they don't have to wait months to get an answer, right?
So you're saying use the office phone, not personal phones?
Yes.
I think that would be good. Yeah. Lee,
Yeah,
that's okay with you?
Sure. I'll check it out every other day now.
And you can send the info on to me if you can't answer the questions. You can certainly send it on to me. Jim.
Our letterhead should include that as part of the office address.
Okay. Jim?
My company takes all these forms of payment, everything except Bitcoin. But my business manager tells me that you've got 3 clicks for most people to start paying, and every click beyond 3, you lose 10% of the people in the process. So it just, I don't know how to do it for the league, but it's got to be done somehow.
Yep, I think that's our problem. I agree. Karen,
Just a couple things regarding this. I believe Stripe is, if we decide to go with them, I believe they charge less than PayPal. So that might be something to look at some point. And then maybe some instructions on how to do PayPal, because it's not intuitive. And so you just have to, you know, keep clicking. So maybe some instructions about if you're having problems with PayPal, here's how you get through it.
PayPal is different depending on your account. So it's a little hard to do, but we can work on it.
but if once in, like, I think Karen is saying in the renewal letter, we could, you know, spell that out.
Right.
You know, this is the best way to pay with your credit card or something. Since we know it's a problem, let people know up front. Leona.
Well, I was going to reiterate what Karen said about some instructions, and I would put some instructions, if you can, on the website. Some brief instructions, or at least a link where if you.
We don't have access to that segment of the website.
So we can put it in the renewal letter. We can change.
We can put it in the renewal letter.
The renewal letter. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That renewal letter should not be more than 1 page.
It's not. It's very short.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I have. Judy's going to update the letterhead, making sure the office phone number is on there, adding our names. Everyone's going to go through that database of 200 plus names. Let her know if anyone should be off that list and the reason. We can keep that, so we put that in our database. Debbie's letter, if anybody has wordsmithing and they want to pass that on to her, Debbie, you could email that out to us. And if
Yeah,
people
it's been emailed out to everybody, but it was very shortly before the meeting, but it should be in your inbox.
Okay, great.
So give me any changes you want. I've got, the bullet of the accomplishments, so I'll do that. Yeah.
And return envelopes, Lee, I don't think we've seen any return envelopes. Have you seen any in the office?
Well, there are some envelopes there. We could put a little label on if we wanted to.
Yeah, we can print out labels.
And stamp.
Linda?
Linda.
The envelopes are very old and I do use them and I have to tape them shut. The glue has.
Yeah.
So Lee, could you go to SCO and see if they can print up some return envelopes for us? Those, like little ones.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Where did you say go to where?
Well, we've been getting printed at SCO. If they do that, I'm not sure they do, but there or anywhere. Anywhere is fine.
And I would say, why don't we get 500 of them? Because we're going to send out a batch with this, but let's have some extras.
Yeah, we do that.
The unit is 500 anyway.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, I did some printing with SCO, and they're fabulous, but the guy, Scott Staub, is leaving, and he has said that there is not somebody to take over for him yet.
Oh, we've done this
And
before.
he sent me all of the documents that I had sent him, so I would have the soft copies. But just FYI, there may not be somebody there to do this for a while, but we should still try. Yeah, we should still call.
Or go to FedEx or wherever, whoever.
Yeah,
whatever
but just FYI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then Debbie's suggestion that we add the annual report in with the letter, a return envelope, and we'll do this all early August. How are we doing?
That would be a bit much. Do you think we need to put?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little much.
Maybe I love the idea, but I just wonder it's how when it prints up.
I kind of agree with Lynn.
How much paper is it?
Too much paper. I think the application form, the envelope.
Oh, the application.
But I do love the recap in the letter. I think that's really great. And maybe the link to the annual report on the website could be, if you'd like to read more about our accomplishments, go here.
Yeah.
Also, do we want to do it in stages? The list goes back to 2015. We know that there's going to be a decreasing, what do you call it?
Return on investment.
Yeah,
I'm farther back to go. Maybe we want to concentrate on
the last 2 years.
The last 2 years.
2 years, because before that, we did have a fairly active letter writing and calling campaign. It was,
Well, if you think about it, 250 letters, it's going to be probably about $150, right? With the postage and the printing, or maybe a little more than that.
Yeah.
That's only like 3 new members, right?
Right.
So it would pay for itself if we get
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
members out of this mailing.
I'm
And then
just,
that would also clean up our database. So if we get them returned, they've moved or they're dead
Yeah.
or whatever, we can
Yeah.
get our database cleaned up.
So
I
are we
thought
gonna
this
do
was only
both
for
an
the-
email version and a hard copy version?
Email, you want to
we
do an
could do
email?
an email first.
Well, yeah,
I would really say don't do email because we've been trying to reach these people through email and it
Yeah.
ain't happening. I
Yeah.
think it would be
Well,
better.
okay, they
Especially,
have it.
I would also say if there's people willing to do it, if we could hand address these, I know that's a lot of work, but I'd be willing to meet people like at the league office and spend an afternoon hand addressing things. There's a lot more likely to open it if it's hand addressed. If they just get something with a label sticked on there, it's going to go in the junk pile without even being opened, I would suspect.
Yeah. When I do any fundraiser, I always hand address the envelopes. It's the
Yeah,
only way
I
to get
think
people to
Debbie's
open.
right about that.
So I would just say, let's pick a date where a bunch of us meet at the office or some other place. I mean, we could do it at a restaurant if people want, or a park, and and just sit and address these envelopes. And
I
I
think
can
we,
also sit at home and do them while I watch TV.
That's what
summer
I,
summer is on the
Get it
way, I
done
think
and Make it
indoors.
personal.
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that. I do think maybe 2 years back or 3 at the most is probably the most that's going to be practical.
I'd like to do the whole thing and just
Okay.
get it cleaned up, and then we don't have to go back later.
Well,
right?
we aren't
Now
going to
this will
clean
be-
up anything. All we're going to know is we have a bad address.
do we
Well,
wanna
then we're
do,
gonna get rid of that person, right? If it's a bad address, we're not gonna send them anything else.
do we wanna do phone call follow-ups?
Yeah, let's see what happens with the mail first, and then we can decide. I know Leona and Jim are gonna do Spring Lake, and Leona's suggesting calling people on the list that you do know. And then let's kind of play with that afterwards.
I do
So
think.
I'll clean up this list with all the feedback I get from people on, so that we're not spending money on folks that have either moved or
Exactly. Yeah, that would be great.
in one way or another.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay.
Oh,
Anything else?
Club Express can generate labels. If we're going to hand address them, that isn't important. But Club
Yeah,
Express can.
I think hand addressing is the way to go. Linda.
We have board minutes that were sent out from our last meeting that we should approve. That
Oh,
Debbie
okay.
sent out a couple, this is our board meeting, right?
Yeah.
And we're not gonna have
Everybody
another.
should have received those by email.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Looked at them. Good.
All
So
right.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Linda. Teresa seconding. Jim is seconding. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Another business item,
Yes. Go ahead, Linda.
the lunches.
Oh,
You gotta make a decision about how you're handling the lunches in August.
Oh, you're talking about the
Retreat.
retreat.
Yeah, so the suggestion, somebody threw out the suggestion that we pay for our own, and off the menu, Jim will help us, Jim and Leona will help us navigate the menu, and we order ahead of time and eat there. Is that okay
Sounds
with
good.
everybody? It's only about $20, so
Yeah.
if you can't afford it, let me know. We can work out something. Jim?
So the company here wants to have one credit card.
Right.
They don't bring you a receipt like they do in a restaurant. It's all online. And I don't know if they can, I suppose they can print it out as what is being charged, but they only want to run one credit card for the 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever number of people we got.
so can they take cash?
Now,
No.
Lin-
I don't think the one credit card's a problem. We can use the league credit card to pay Spring Lake Village, and then we
Right.
all just reimburse the league. You
League,
all
league.
give money to Linda to pay for
Yeah.
our lunches.
Linda's not going to be there, but Lee will be in charge
Yeah.
of that.
Okay.
Lee doesn't know this yet.
Oh,
Oh, no, I do. I
She
do.
was
Yes, I
CC'd
do.
on- She was CC'd on that email. will everyone else be able to make that August date? That would be
Yeah.
great. I'll check with Chris Reiseman. I invited Sue Novak, and then I invited Alexandra Starr to attend. So send me your ideas of what you want to talk about, or, we'll definitely review the strategic plan and figure out what we're going to do next year. And
Did
anything
we-
else you want to add to that?
Do we get the menu ahead of time, or do we just do it that day?
I think Jim sent out the menu, but he can probably
Well,
do
that
that again.
changes. I mean, it changes every week.
Oh, okay, so you'll send it out maybe the couple of days before. People can be thinking about what they want to eat. I guess I should formally welcome Lynn Dooley to the board, even though she's practically part of that.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And did you
Oh,
have
you've
something
already
you
been
wanted to say, Lynn?
functioning.
I just want to say I'm excited about being here, and I think you guys are the greatest group. I'm really thrilled. So
We're a
I've
good
never
board.
been on a board before, so I don't know how it works, but
How did you escape that?
because I
another
leave
league.
for 6
She's
months.
in
Hey,
two
I do have a
leagues.
question. Did we vote on the slate of members in the meeting earlier? Did we vote?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that. I couldn't vote, so it doesn't
Oh.
matter.
Right.
Just
But
wanted
you're
to
a member. You're a member, you can vote, can't you?
Well, no, I can't vote until I switch out. I have to switch.
Oh, you
anyway.
haven't switched yet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have to switch
Okay.
July 1st.
Okay. Couple quick, practical things. I have to update the website with the board of directors information, most of which doesn't change. And also I will update the US roster, although that's kind of a messy
Oh, good.
now. So those two things have to be updated with the new slate. So I will.
Thank you, Juanita.
For Debbie's report to do that, just so I have the, well, I guess it's online, so I can pull it up. So that, and the voter, I'm going to start working on shortly. I think I have everything except the report of this meeting to go into the voter, and already we have everything. If there's anything else you want, I'm not worried about a big voter this time because it's mostly reporting the convention in this meeting. And I am going to include the bit about the US our victory with the voting rights in the one thing that's sent out. So I think that's important. And anything else you'd like to see? Any pictures? I think I've gotten a couple from you already of parades and things. So anything else like that that's of interest? This will be the last voter until I guess
October.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
September. Yeah. Linda?
I have received two things from League of Women Voters California. It's called the Leaders Update, and it's a form.
That's what she's saying she'll do. Juanita will do.
Juanita
No,
didn't know
this
about
is something different.
This is something different.
Talking about online.
Yeah.
You're talking about a report to.
Yep.
And I've never seen that. When I was treasurer, I didn't get that. I thought it went to the president.
I haven't seen anything, but if you want to forward it to me, I'll look at it and help you with it.
Yeah. I don't know that I need help yet because
Okay.
we had to wait for this meeting, but I was like, wait a minute, that's not me. So.
Okay. Okay, anything else, peeps?
Save, keep this new, keep this new.
So
All
Gabby,
right.
you're going to be out of email reach while you're gone.
No, I should have emailed most times, but I'll be camping in the woods, so you might not be able to reach me 24/7, but yeah.
When will you be back? When will you be back?
I will be back August 1st.
Okay, and Lynn is going to be picking up checks while you're away. Is that right? Or I'm sorry,
Lee.
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 Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do want to acknowledge the membership renewals that come in, so I'll keep touch with you, Lee, on that.
Yeah.
We can
Do we
update
have a
the
new,
database.
do we have a new punch?
You mean the key box?
Yeah.
You're talking
Lock-
about the,
Lockbox.
you know what, the office, building office has been closed. They're, I guess, a long vacation. They'll be
Oh.
back at the end of this week. So I
Oh,
left the message. I'm asking them if we could mount this particular key box on the wall, the door, whatever. That's why I've waited.
Okay.
It'll be pretty
Is-
quick once we get an answer.
Are we gonna have a key box or a punch?
Well, it'll be a punch box, but it'll be a typical kind of box punches, but it looks a little different to be a wall mount versus on the doorknob.
So,
I
but it
just-
will have a key inside rather.
It'll have a key inside,
lock.
yes.
It
Yeah,
won't
I
be a
just, I'm
punch
asking
lock,
for
it will be a
permission.
Key box. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Could
Lynn.
we get the official hours of that building so that we all know when we can and can't get in? Would you mind finding out? Because some people, I've heard that it's not open on the weekends, but then it might be
right.
open on the Saturday for a little while.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
open.
I'll check. I
Thank you,
usually
that
just
would be
go
great.
between 9 and 5, but maybe
Yeah.
there are different hours.
But
I'll check.
sometimes people are doing stuff and they want to just drop something off and they're out to dinner and could they go
Right.
by?
Right.
If someone in the building has a meeting or they have clients or something, then often the front door is open, but you can't count on it other
Yeah.
than the 9 to 5.
No.
9 to 5, Monday through
Monday
Friday.
through
That's what we
Friday,
should
yeah.
count on.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
And
that's
not on
fine.
holidays, not on holidays either.
right.
It's closed on
right.
holidays. And if we want to use that conference room with the nice table, we just have to go on the calendar and put it up there,
Okay.
that workspace area.
Yeah, so that's maybe where we do our letter writing
Right.
program.
Yeah, and you can just contact me because I'll go there a couple times a week anyway, and I'll put it into the calendar as
Great.
long as we have enough
Oh, good. That's a
notice.
good
All right.
idea.
Great,
Thank you, Lee. We'll set a date and do that. Okay, anything else? Have a wonderful
Great trip,
summer.
Donna. Be
Yeah.
safe.
Have great
Okay.
trips.
Thank
Okay.
you, everybody. Yeah.
Happy
Bye.
summer, everybody.
Have a good summer. Bye.
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 Thank you, Debbie, for hosting. Thank you,
Thank you,
Lynn, for co-hosting.
Debbie.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.